In this chapter, we're going to explore landscape area settings. We'll take a look at how to configure tag, graphics, and plant distribution settings. When setting up a landscape area, we can either pre-configure the landscape area settings by clicking on the Preferences button in the toolbar, or by directly editing a landscape area that has already been created. Before we continue, let's discuss the differences between editing the landscape area tool preferences and editing the settings of a landscape area object. If we activate the landscape area tool and click on the Preferences button in the toolbar, we are configuring the placement options for the landscape area tool itself. After making changes in this dialog, all new landscape areas created using either the tool or the Create Objects from Shapes command will use these settings. If you double-click on a placed landscape area, or click on the Landscape Area Settings button in the Object Info palette, you are just editing the settings of the selected landscape area. No other landscape areas will be affected by changes made in this dialog. Now that we know where to go to configure the settings of the landscape area tool, as well as editing the specific settings of a placed landscape area, let's take a closer look at those settings. We'll start by configuring the landscape area tool preferences. Clicking on the Preferences button in the toolbar will open the landscape area settings dialog. The majority of the landscape area settings are controlled through this dialog. Let's start with the tag information. Landscape areas can be tagged in nearly an identical manner to individual plant objects, with a few important differences. At the top, we can give the landscape area a unique name. This will be helpful later for scheduling. Next, we have the tag display option. This determines whether the tag will be shown or not, and which direction it will be drawn. Tag class allows us to choose which class to place the tag in. Tag line angle and tag text angle will set the default angle for the tag line and text respectively. These can be altered manually later through either the landscape area settings dialog or manually using the control handles. Next, we have options for what is displayed in the tag. There are two parts to the tag header and the tag body. The tag header determines what will show at the top of the landscape area's tag. The header can be set to display the name and/or the area. The tag body can display any information about the plants within the landscape area. We'll talk about choosing these plants later on. Just like plants, any information about the plant can be displayed, from ID and common name to soil and water needs. All plants contained within the landscape area will have their information displayed on a separate line. Typically, the plant percentage or rate, as well as a combination of name, ID, and quantity, will be displayed. The area units can be specified as well. These units are independent from the document units. The last option under tag information is Display Tag Line Marker. This option enables or disables the marker at the end of the tag line touching the landscape area. Now let's take a look at the graphics section. Here we can control how the landscape area will be displayed. 3D display controls the 3D representation of the landscape area. 2D only will show only the basic 2D polygon. This is a planar object that will appear in 3D views, but it will be flat along the ground plane. This option is useful when creating an initial conceptual plan. 3D plants will show the polygon when in a 2D top plan view, but will show the 3D geometry or image props of the included plants when in a 3D rendered view. When this option is enabled, additional randomization options are available. The rotation of each plant can be randomized using this checkbox. Also, the plant diameter and height can be varied. The variation can be set to fixed, random at 5%, random at 10%, and random at 15%. These adjustments will make the 3D plants appear less similar and more natural. 3D Poly will show a 3D polygon when in 3D views. 3D polygons can show no fill, a solid color, or a texture. This option is useful when using a landscape area to represent ground cover or a planting bed. The texture bed option applies a textured area to a site model. This uses a texture bed site modifier. This applies to the proposed site model, and the texture is set through the Render tab of the Object Info palette. The site model will need to be updated before the texture bed will render. For more information on texture beds and site models, check out the site model chapters. While we're on the subject of site models, one additional benefit of placing a landscape area over a site model is that the area calculations will update to account for the current proposed contours of that site model. This will report a more accurate area as well as account for any changes to the slope or elevation, rather than simply calculating a flat area value. Next up, we have the border style. Border style controls the 2D appearance of the landscape area border. Standard sets the border to a single line. This is the simplest representation. Plant cloud creates a curved or bubbly border similar to a massed plant group with a number of configurable options for size, variability, and shape. Plant line creates a freehand, natural-looking edge. The plant line has configurable options as well. Both the segment length and thickness can be adjusted. The plant line option is great for representing a general plant mass. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the plant information section. Here we can control how the distribution of plants is calculated and which plants are included in the landscape area. There are 3 main distribution modes. Distribution rate automatic. With this mode enabled, the specified rate per plant is used to calculate the quantity of the plants placed within the area. The percentage will be calculated for each plant automatically in order to maintain a 100% distribution. For instance, we can add a plant by clicking the Add button and then using the resource selector. Then set a distribution rate. The rate can either be per area or from center. After clicking OK, the chosen rate will be displayed and the percentage of the plant will be set to 100%, because at this time this is the only plant we've chosen. If a second plant object is added, the percentage will be rebalanced automatically, based on the set rate for each plant. Next, we have distribution rate custom. This allows the distribution rate and the percentage to be specified. The total coverage of the area can be more or less than 100% if desired. We currently have plants added to the landscape area. The distribution percentage adds up to 100% because we've added them with the automatic distribution rate option enabled. With the custom option enabled, we can manually adjust the percentage for each plant in addition to the rate. Just select the plant from the list and click the Edit button. Here we can decrease or increase the distribution percentage affecting the final distribution rate of the plant. For example, if we create a 10 square meter landscape area and then place one plant with a 1 meter on center rate at a 100% distribution, and a second plant with the same rate but a 50% distribution, we get 10 plants within the landscape area from the plant with 100% distribution, and we get 5 plants from the plant with the 50% distribution. The last option is percentage. Percentage calculates the distribution based on the percentage entered for each plant individually. The distribution rate is the same for all plants. The percentage determines the total number of plants placed within the landscape area. This mode requires the total percentage to equal 100%. As we were adding plants in the previous examples, they appeared in this plant list. This displays all the plants that will be included in this landscape area. As shown earlier, the Add button is used to select the plants included in the landscape area. Plants can be selected from both your current active document as well as various library files. If any changes need to be made to a plant added to the list, just select the plant from the list and click Edit. The plant type, distribution, and/or percentage can be modified. Delete removes the selected plant from the list. Then the last option under plant information is an area increase factor. This factor will allow the calculated area to be adjusted for a slope. If a landscape area is placed on a site model, This is not needed, as the area will account for the slope of the site automatically. That covers all of the options available in the Landscape Area Settings dialog. Most of these options can also be accessed quickly directly through the Object Info palette. However, there are a couple of options that can only be adjusted through the Object Info palette. Under Information, a unit price and price code can be assigned to the landscape area. This information can be used for costing purposes. For example, if an area is representing a mulch bed, the price per area for mulch can be entered. This will allow you to put together an estimate for that particular mulch bed. Landscape areas can save you a large amount of time when covering large areas with a variety of plants. Not only do they provide many different visual configurations, but they also allow for quick and accurate plant counts for an area.